Hello, dear viewer. Noah here. We're coming up to the end of Pride Month, 2026. It's just about the last day of June right now. And I was thinking in recent days that I've never actually sat down and properly told my story of how it was like to come out of the closet as a gay man. I came out back in the early 2000s, and it was a little bit of a rocky coming out at first. I was raised in a conservative Christian family, and my family didn't want me to be gay, and I didn't want to be gay. And so things were a little bit bumpy there at first. But then, like so many of these stories go, it did get so much better as I grew up and got out of the house and began to live my own life. So to start the story off, I guess we can go back to the beginning. I had probably the first inklings of an idea that I was turning out gay when I was in middle school. There was a boy in some of my classes that I just found to be absolutely adorable, and I had a massive crush on him. And then when I was in ninth grade of high school, I had a class with a different boy and had a crush on him too. And then, around this time, I started to tell some of my close girlfriends at school that maybe I was bisexual because, being raised in a Christian family, the default was always that I was going to grow up and find a girlfriend and get married and, the standard life plan. And then when I was in 10th grade, my sophomore year of high school, I had a class again with that same cute boy that I had the first crush on, and he was still so freaking adorable. And so I kind of, around that time, decided that I'm probably just gay. Like, I wasn't really thinking of girls in the same way that I was thinking of guys. All of my thoughts about girls was about sort of Disney princess kind of stuff, like just the romantic, cutesy relationship stuff, which was mostly just kind of societal expectations that were handed down to me. And so then I told some friends at high school that I was gay. And eventually the word of it got around to my family, and they were not pleased. So as I mentioned earlier, I was raised in a conservative and Christian family. So we were like going to church every Sunday. We had youth groups every Wednesday. We were the Baptist Christian denomination. And so, there was a lot of like, gays are, living in sin and they're not going to get into heaven and all of that. And my family was very active in the church. And so I think they had some of their own reputation to worry about. Like, they didn't want people to know that they had a gay relative. And, they're trying to keep me in the closet and telling me that it's, all in my head and I'm not actually gay and all that kind of stuff. In one of the most dramatic moments, my mom one day finally confronted me about it, and it was kind of a big dramatic argument, and I ended up running away from home just for the evening. I climbed out my bedroom window and took off, and I ended up coming back home because I was wearing like soccer cleats and clothing that wouldn't be good for camping out overnight, and I had to go to school the next day. And when I came home, my mom was in the bathroom crying, and since then she didn't really get in my face about it. She kind of adopted like a don't ask, don't tell sort of relationship. I learned later that it was my brother who put her up to it, because like my whole entire family was just pushing against me so hard on this, and because I wasn't getting nearly any of the support that I would have hoped from my family, I guess that the teenage rebellion in me sort of kicked in, and I decorated my MySpace page. MySpace was a social network before Facebook and all this stuff. I put rainbows all over it and gay pride stuff, and just totally went flamboyant with it, as many new gays do when they come out and meet resistance. And for me, it was actually, it helped give me the strength to get through it. Like, I was riding off of my spite, I guess. I was like, if my family can't accept me for who I am, like, screw them, I'll, find my own energy. And my aunt actually forbade my cousins from looking at my MySpace page. She didn't want them to see all the gay rainbow stuff I had on it. And so that was kind of what I was dealing with family stuff. And I have one unfortunate core memory that has stuck with me my whole entire life. In the year 2004, we were living in Michigan, and Michigan put it to a vote. It was Proposal 042 to define marriage as between one man and one woman. It was going to enshrine it into the state constitution, basically a bill against gay marriage. And I remember sitting in church, and my family was discussing how they were going to go and vote on this in the coming week. And I was only 17 years old, and so I wasn't old enough to go with them and vote, because I would have so loved to just go and vote opposite to them. That bill ended up passing, but that kind of core memory of my family, like knowing already then that they had a gay nephew and a gay grandchild and all of that, and then just kind of rubbing it in my face and going and voting like against gay marriage, against my rights. I never forgot that memory. And a couple of years later, when I was 20 years old, an opportunity presented itself for me to move to Los Angeles, go all the way across the country. I had a job offer down there to do some software development, and it didn't take any convincing for me. Like, an opportunity to put 2,000 miles between me and my family, like, I jumped on that so fast. And I guess since then I've hardly seen my family, which it kind of sucks to hear it said, but they, I don't know, in a way they kind of wrote me off, and I kind of wrote them off, and I've been all but unofficially no contact. I have been back a couple times for like Thanksgivings or for like weddings and funerals and things, but I don't keep them as a part of my life regularly anymore. But where things started to get better is after I landed in Los Angeles, because like being away from my tiny little hometown in Michigan and into such a big and diverse city, Los Angeles has the West Hollywood gay district, and there's a large and thriving queer community there. And so when I was 20 years old, I got to start what I call my gay adolescence. I got to meet people and date and have boyfriends and have all of those formative experiences that all of my straight peers in high school, were able to have just normally growing up, but which wasn't available to me. In the years since then, like my brother came around and we're really close again. He moved out to Los Angeles about a year after I did. I got him a job at the company that I was working at. So we lived there together for a few years, and then he moved out to Portland, and then I managed to follow him up here a couple of years later. So we are very close, despite him, kind of taking my family side in the early days. And I don't blame him. Like, none of us knew anything back then. We just had the church and all the nonsense that we were fed. And then I had mentioned that I didn't see my family all that much over the years, just occasional visits for Thanksgiving holidays and things like that. For a while, I thought that maybe my aunt had finally started to come around, because then she would start to ask me about my love life, and I thought maybe she chilled out in your old age. But I'm not so sure, because like she still had some kids that were under her care. She was in the foster care business, and over the years she adopted a handful of kids, and so some that were still living under her house when they were coming out as like transsexual or lesbian or whatever. Like, she was kind of giving them the same amount of grief that she gave me. So I was like, well, maybe she didn't really come around after all, and she just instead gave up on me because I grew up and got out of the house, and I was no longer malleable for her to impose her will on me or any of that. I apologize for all the birds and squirrels and stuff are going nuts back there. But anyway, so while the coming out process was a little bit rocky in the beginning, things did massively improve once I got out of that town. Like, I had the best gay adolescence that anybody could ask for, from age 20 to 30, just down there in Los Angeles. It took me until maybe my mid-20s to finally shake off the last remnants of internalized homophobia. Like, I was so conflicted about this when I was a teenager. You know, as I said, I grew up in the church. I didn't want to be gay. I mean, who would if they grew up in the kind of conservative upbringing that I did? Like, all my life plans were being derailed. And, you know, I tried to pray about it and pray away the gay, and, you know, there's mountains of empirical evidence that doesn't work. But basically what I want to touch on is that, you know, even if your own family kind of sucks, you know, just because they brought you into the world doesn't mean they necessarily deserve your time and instead you can, you know, make your own new friends and kind of choose your own family in a way. Like, I developed like a really strong and supportive friend group when I was in Los Angeles, and then I'd have a good group around me here in Portland. I have a loving boyfriend that I've been with for about 8 years now, and I have my own house. I have all of these hydrangeas around that came with the house. And so yeah, I think that'll just about cover my coming out story. I remember over the years I saw things like the Trevor Project, and people were posting all these kind of stories online, and I wasn't sure that my story was all that interesting or worth sharing. At one job I was at, they brought in a camera guy and had some of my coworkers do these sort of coming out stories, and I passed on that. Wasn't quite ready yet. Still had too much anxiety to show up in front of a camera and try to, you know, ad-lib something like this live. But it's the end of Pride Month 2026. I want to try and get this video out while the topic is still topical. I just started a YouTube channel recently where I'm going to be just posting random interesting things that I'm into, maybe some retro computing, nostalgia stuff, old video games. You can go ahead and subscribe and see what I'm going to be up to. But I think that'll do it for now. My name is Noah, and yeah, it does get better.